And welcome back to part 8 of SideQuest Fantasy 15. Seriously, that's pretty much what we're doing again today. Next part we'll go to Lestalem, but for now we've got more side questing to do. But whilst this ticks on, I've got some explaining to do. You might have noticed that for the past week my upload schedule has gone to shit again, because it always does, eventually. Like, give it a couple months, it'll do it again. That's just because my PS4 has been very shitty again, and been a bit very problematic, and I've ordered a new PS4 Slim to turn up, which Amazon screwed up on. They delivered it, but it wasn't the PS4 Slim, so I had to send it back because they sent the wrong item to then try and go get another one, so it's just waiting for that new one to turn up now. But I've managed to get some life out of this thing still. If it's sitting by the fan, it manages, so I can crack on and see what life I can get out of it and do some more recording for you guys. And it's also because I really wanted this part of Final Fantasy 15 out, because I saved at the end of this thinking there wouldn't be a problem. I usually have a backup save, but this one part was one I didn't have a backup on, so I knew I needed to get this part out before I swap over to the PS4, just in case I lose footage. Because if I lose footage for detention, you can do chapter select very easily and you won't have to cost anything, whilst in this, if you do chapter select, you're gonna lose a lot. It resets every single side quest, things like that. And I don't particularly want to do things twice over, or things being consistent and whatnot. I'd rather try and get it constant as possible. Whilst in detention, there are no side quests or anything like that. So if you do chapter select, you're just doing chapter select. But that being said, I will try and upload a bit more often, like today and tomorrow, to try and make up for the lost time. So this won't be the only part you probably see today. This will probably be the only Final Fantasy 15 part you'll see today, because I haven't recorded the next part. But detention's all recorded. All I need to do really now is just the editing, which shouldn't take long anyway, because unlike the first proper puzzles of the game, I don't really get stuck on these ones. I find my way through it really quickly, so it's really no hassle. There's no real editing or working around like that, other than if something's a bit dark, changing the brightness, because I know how to do that now finally, to make it a bit easier on the YouTube side for you guys to see it. Well, because I mean, look, the chapter that we were on detention, that's the last time we have a proper enemy encounter. I'm not joking.
So, what's with the sweltering heat around here?
Oh, back to subject of Final Fantasy 15, they're mentioning there's an extreme heat that we're nearby. That's because we're near the meteor, or the astral shard, in the middle of the map. That is constantly radiating severe heat, even though we're in the rain. And if you're wondering where we've been travelling these past few minutes, we're heading down south to explore down here, and I didn't feel like taking the cargs because we've only just got the chocobos, so I'd rather use them. And congratulations, they leveled up. You can now call them in to assist you in combat. They don't do it, it's really useless, but it's a nice little add-on. If you level up the chocobos, you literally just keep using them. As you use them, it's almost like experience per step, I think, the way it works. And eventually they'll just keep on leveling up. The higher levels, they'll have like better stamina, better movement speed, more bang for your buck if you press the boost button, or the sprint button even. Things like that. They will become more athletic and better to use in those circumstances. As we continue our travels over here. Sorry, excuse me. So where's the moment I go to stop recording? Whoa, okay, he just kind of spawned in. I think I actually go and fight him. Yeah, I do. He's a high level. He's higher level than us, so I just go for it anyway, I think. Yeah. Let's see how long it takes before I get knocked down. To be fair, yeah, as I said, to be fair, we only got Ignis last part, so I should really be using him more. To show just how good Ignis really is. Because he's the most powerful, he's really OP. So he takes so little to be powerful with, as I just took a hard knockdown and didn't recover from it. So every character but Noctis starts with the ability to have a recovery move, where if they're knocked down, if you tap square, the moment you hit the ground you'll recover. Noctis doesn't start with it, but he can unlock it through his ascension tree. They just give it to everyone else anyway. Oh, and he's dead. Oh, that was easy. Oh, and Iggy's got a new recipe. Take a shot.
Can't wait to try it.
I can't make the thumbnail of every video. Just Iggy getting a new recipe. To be fair, there are more side quests that I can do beyond this part, but I've decided it'd be better to balance it out and just not and move on to the Stardom after this part, which is why this part's also a bit smaller, because I had sort of like a checklist of how much I wanted to do before I moved on with the plot, and I got through the checklist a hell of a lot quicker than I ever planned to. I think I completely ignore these guys just because they're not worth it.
Stop bitching, start killing.
Sorry Gladio, we're going to keep on moving anyway. I mentioned before at the end of last part, but it's just a force of habit for me to have my chocobo be a different colour than everyone else's. I'm like the leader chocobo, so it should be different. And you can change the colour of your chocobos. There's a lot of different colours you can get in the game, but they don't actually change it. Like, you're not going to get a black chocobo that can straight up fly. You're not going to get the fat orange ones that can just store all your items. You're not going to get the purple ones that are stupidly aggressive and angry at the world. Sort of things. You're not going to get the ones that have different personalities. It's literally just a colour swap, which I kind of miss, because even the 13 trilogy, as much as people bitched at them, even 13-2 got that right. Like, if you got on a different coloured chocobo, it would have a different personality, would function differently, and the music would change. The music was a lot more aggressive if you was on the aggressive chocobos, whilst it was a lot more soft if you was on the peacekeeping chocobos. And it would affect how they work. Like the red and purple ones, like they could fling you off if you wound them up too much, whilst the calmer ones would never bother. But then 13-2 I just have a real soft spot for anyway. A lot of people have issues with the 13 trilogy, and as much as a lot of them I can see the justification, especially with 13-1, with how fucking slow the first half of the game is. Like, it's so obnoxiously slow and linear, it makes sense of why people were against it, because it's very hard to encourage people to jump in, especially when 12 was the game right before it was so open-ended. But in 12 I felt had the opposite problem, because it was almost too open-ended right from the start, but that's a different issue. But 13-2 I felt didn't have that slowness. I felt it found a very effective way of doing it, whilst tweaking the gameplay system that 13 had in place to just be a lot more appealing and effective as a JRPG. And I thoroughly enjoyed 13-2 in every single way. Its presentation, the idea of it, the plot, the characters. Oh, we got a news report on Deadeye. And the game, and ultimately the gameplay was just all really fun. The only really thing I could critique about it was that getting the true ending is a lot of work. Like, you have to do literally everything to do it. And you can completely screw yourself out of getting the true ending, because some side quests in the game aren't available all the time. Like, if you go too far in the plot, they become far harder to get to. Like, I don't think it's impossible. Like, I think you can still do them, it's just they become far harder to do because of timing and having to backtrack and do things differently and whatnot. And so it's just, I've never 100%ed it. I've got close, but I've never properly 100%ed it because it just takes so much effort.
Sounds good.
And I hope those rumours are true. Like, there's been a few rumours floating around that they're going to do like a 13 trilogy package on PS4 and Xbone. And if they do that, I'd be down for it, because so far all they've done for the 30th anniversary is Dissidia, really, and that's not enough, personally, especially because Dissidia I felt was kind of disappointing in what it could have been, especially because it came out the same week as Dragon Ball FighterZ, so it had, and Dragon Ball FighterZ set a very strong like first impression on a lot of people, so Dissidia really did just get passed to the side on because it just didn't have a good first impression. The beta we let off because we thought, oh, it hasn't got that much content on it because it's the beta, it's not going to show everything. Then you go to the main game and realise there's not much more. It's kind of disappointing. And the characters they've been adding as DLC with part of the season pass, they're not terrible, but it's like when they added the Final Fantasy 12 like main villain, it's like, why did they add him and not bring back the guy who originally represented the villain of Final Fantasy 12? Like, why bring back, like, I can't remember their names, but the easiest way to describe it very quickly is they essentially brought back to the Emperor instead of Darth Vader as their extra character. It just feels kind of weird, because Final Fantasy 12, its plot is very inspired by Star Wars anyway, but there is a character that is a lot more regular, a lot more intimidating, that you see a lot more often in a black suit of armor, that is essentially a Darth Vader of it, but instead of being one of the main characters' father, he's one of the main characters' brother instead. But then there's this quieter backseat emperor that does absolutely nothing until right near the very end. And they decide to make him the one that goes into the Dissidia in the new one and not the other guy. It's like, what? Why? But back on point, if the rumours are true and they do make the 13 trilogy on PS4, as much as some people might be going, oh, it's the 13 trilogy, I'll pick it up. I'll happily pick it up. Because 13-1, yeah, the first half is slow as fuck, but I enjoyed the second half and wouldn't mind going through it again, even though I've already butchered myself going through it like 4 times in my life now, which I don't recommend to anyone. As much as I enjoy Final Fantasy 13, it's not worth playing through more than once. But 13-2, I absolutely love. And if they released it on PS4, you know, like if I ever finish Final Fantasy 15, I'd move on to that as my background long Let's Play. And Lightning Returns, I played the demo and didn't enjoy it, and then never bothered picking up the full release, so it'd be a chance for me to actually give the full game a go, because I've had my mind changed about older Final Fantasies a few times now anyway. Classic example, Final Fantasy 2 and 3. As like even some of my older Let's Plays, I mentioned I enjoyed 2 but really didn't enjoy 3. But nowadays, now I've like gone back and marathoned the Final Fantasy series, I was in like the first 5 games relatively recently, I absolutely hated going through 2 again. 2 is such a grind fest, it's so boring. I think I just enjoyed it when I was a kid because you have more patience when you're a kid to stuff like that. You just crack on and do it and you don't really think about it. But 3, on the other hand, I thoroughly enjoyed. 3 really surprised me with just how much of an enjoyable experience it really is. Yeah, the PSP remake has a lot to do with that. Like, if you ever want to touch Final Fantasy 3, don't buy the original, buy the PSP remake. So I would say buy the DS remake, but like, the PSP version has a bunch of side quests that were online only in the DS version, but on the DS version, the DS's online servers no longer exist, so you can't access them. So to get the full version of the remake, you need to play the PSP version now. Which is a shame that that's just what happens, because it was a cool idea on the DS version to have things tied to online, but unfortunately the servers have gone down and you can't do them, so you need the PSP version. But I thoroughly enjoyed it, it really impressed me from start to finish. Yeah, the final dungeon is a little bit stressing, because there's no mid-dungeon saves in Final Fantasy 3, because that wasn't introduced till 4. And so the final dungeon being 3 dungeons with no real space in between, so you don't have any like open world space in between the save. It's like 2 to 3 hours long if you're racing through it. And if you get all the way to the final boss and then die, that's a lot you have to do again. It kind of hurts the final stretch, but that's a lot you have to do again. But going back on track, where I just put the marker on this is where the next Royal Arm is. Because there are Royal Arms that you can just go up to on the map, this being one of them. Actually, I think it's the only one that you can really just go up to, because I think the other one you go up to is actually empty when you find it, because it's been stolen and taken to Costelmark Tower, which we won't do until much later on, because that dungeon's a level 55 for expectation, and the final boss is not level 55, so how I'm going to plan that out is going to be a bit interesting. Well, I might, if I get like level 50, I might just put on an experience band and just grind it out and burn through the Costelmark Tower just to get it done without overpowering, but we'll see how it goes when we get there. It entirely depends what level we're on by about, say, chapter 7 or 8. Because that'll be when I'll start thinking about how I want to handle it before I move on. Because, as a lot of journalists and reporters have reported, only the first half of the game technically is open world. When you hit the later few chapters, because I wouldn't say it's last half, it's more like the last quarter, but for the sake of journalists and getting what they have to say, they said second half, but it's not, it's more like last quarter, but it does get extremely linear in the last chunk of the game. And so it's like it's having to decide for myself what stuff do I want to do before we enter the linear stuff. Because when we enter the linear stuff, it will be nothing but the plot and moving on until the credits. And so I won't have time to just come back here and say, oh, let's do this, oh, let's do that, oh, let's do this thing. It just won't happen. As we head over. So I believe this Royal Arm's one of the better ones. Because some of the Royal Arms are just unused, but I think this is the shield we're heading towards, which is really good. Oh, slight spoilers, we're heading towards the shield, I think. I'm pretty sure this is the shield. And the beauty of the shield is that you know the cover system, where when you're running out of magic, you can take cover behind rocks and whatnot to restore it. The shield counts as a moving cover. You can use it to hold cover behind at any given point, making it a very beautiful tool to use when you need to get out of dodge and restore your MP. Just get a bit of space and do it. But here it is. Yeah, it is the just. It's shielded the just. And we have our magic key, so we can just open it. I believe all the rest after this one are either in a dungeon or tied to plot. This is the only one you can kind of just walk up to and get free. Yep, it's the shield. I said, this thing's great. I didn't even realise how good it was until Reese highlighted to me just how good it is with its whole cover system in place. To be fair, that's a point I can make in Final Fantasy 15's defence, because I know it does get a lot of flack, and a lot of its flack I can justify, but a lot of it I can also turn around and say, actually, you know Reese at this point, you guys know him at this point. If you've been regularly watching my videos, you know Reese, whether I've been doing videos against him, or I name drop him a bunch, or call him out on stuff, or whatever. He's a good friend of mine, and I know he always does his own stuff, and he's got his own channel as well, and he does some really good uploads on that. But this was his real introduction to Final Fantasy, and he loved this game. And I think that speaks for itself, that this can be a good introductory step to the Final Fantasy series as well. If you've ever been curious about the Final Fantasy series, but been a little intimidated by its numbers, which to be fair, I wouldn't really blame you. But that being said, this is a really good introductory point for the series if you've ever wanted to try it. And with extra content still coming around at the end of the year in early 2019, you might as well.
Got it.
Anyway, what I'm highlighting here is, you might remember from, like, I think it was either the end of last part or even the part before, I can't remember now, it's been a while. We started a side quest where we spooked a lady who wanted us to collect these frogs.
Nice work, Noct.
And so I just did a hard cut of me running around until I found them all, because they are quite annoying to find. They're just kind of hidden around, like so.
Take care you don't hurt it.
But it's not too hard to find if you just look around. You'll be able to find it fine.
That should do it.
The only like frog side quest that she sets that's hard is the very last one, because it's all around the map and the game doesn't tell you whereabouts you should be looking. So if you want to do it, just just bring up a walkthrough and look for it, because it's like trying to find the last 2 hidden packages in a Grand Theft Auto game. You're not doing it. And when you get back here, you get a crap ton of experience, thanks, for what was literally just a little fetch quest. Like, it wasn't like we was hunting some dangerous beast, but whatever. We get the star pendant. Protects the wearer from poison. That could be quite handy for swampish areas later on, so keep a hold of that. It's not as good as the ribbon, but the ribbons are always very hard to find. And I decided to do one more little side quest before calling it a day. Along the way, but over there, my chocobo leveled up again. But essentially, if you head right up to the door that's blocking off the disc of Corvus itself, or the meteorite, you'll get this side quest finished here, but it'll also highlight that the Magitech guys are here as well. The Empire's here, so you get a free fight with the Empire if you want. When the game loads. There we go. I won't really count this encounter as a boss, so I'm not going to start going through all the boss stats and whatnot, because it's not important. The point of the matter is, it's weak to magic and you're going to win. End of. But it's also our first real night fight, I think, because I decided to do this within the same day. Which also means we're going to have demon encounters if we're not careful. But this is also the one of the ones that has the stick arms, so if he starts charging it up, remember to stand underneath it and get ready on the block for a free parry. Like that. Well, I went to do Tempest, so I'll miss my chance, but if he goes to do that, just stand underneath him and prepare. Because if you're in range of that electric spike, and then when you hit square, or whatever you have set to parry, you will be able to bounce off and respond. Come on. I think I'll try and bait it out again because I've hit stasis and I don't have the shield equipped. I think I do actually have the shield equipped, I just forget about it. Which wouldn't surprise me. I'm baiting it. I'm just waiting for it now. Then I just hold square, parry it, and there you go. Just remember to hit the attack button again when you get launched into the air, otherwise it'll be a waste and you'll just drop back down. Because the timing on it is a little bit stricter than you'd think. And they're just going to do it again immediately. So, block, parry, and then immediately hit circle again. I swapped to Iggy because its health bar's not dropping fast enough, and Iggy can really drop those health bars, so... Especially because we haven't even showed off his 2-bar technique, which name slips my mind, which is why I'm waiting for me to bring it up, because it's been a little while. Overclock. Overclock doubles whatever your multiplier is. So if it's on 2 times, you're now doing 4 times. If you get it all the way up to 4 times, you're doing 8 times the damage. So it's really effective and really good at using if you want to really rack up the damage. Because it doesn't matter if you're low level if you're doing 8 times the damage. Yeah, look. 8 times. So now this is just going to hurt it like hell and just murder it. It just immediately died. Watch out with mechs. Every time it's a mech, they will explode on death and it will hurt you. And now the game will highlight to you, hey, it's dangerous to travel at night. Maybe head back. Oh no, it's not. Gladio wants us to go to Lestalem. Yeah, we'll go soon.
Got some stuff I want to do first.
Serious? Well, I suppose Iris is already safe in town. Right.
Gladio's like, I want to see my sister, make sure she's doing okay, and you want to go fucking waddle around beating up robots. What some prince you are. I was hoping they'd say we should return back to camp, because I would have been able to just reset, but whatever.
What a relief.
Indeed. They ought to keep the demons at bay.
Yeah, good thing the demons are scared of any kind of light, but let's go camp and wrap up this part. I know it's a bit shorter of a part than usual, but it's just wrapping up the last of the side quests, but next times we will be doing actual plot. Ding ding. Unfortunately, Iggy won't get to cook again because we haven't gone camping. We're staying here. God damn, yeah, we're gonna level up. Level 19. Oh, we're quite a healthy level for this part in the game. But do you see what I mean by how quickly you can just level through? I know I mention it like every part, but you do level up way too quickly in this game. And it kind of makes it easy for you to get over leveled if you're not careful. We've got a few nice pictures this time around.
Not bad.
There. Anyway, next time on Final Fantasy 15, we're going to finally enter Lestalem and see how Iris is doing, Gladio's younger sister. And maybe get more of an idea as to what happened with everything that happened during the Kingsglaive film. But until then, you guys take care now.